Hey guys, we're going to talk about your review for Friday, your test. It's going to be very similar to the type of district assessments, state assessments, and your national assessments that you guys will take in the future. With that being said, we just want to take this Wednesday, this Ed puzzle, and just kind of discuss some things we would notice to help you guys out. And hopefully, it'll just become very beneficial for your score on Friday. That's the hopes, and just also beneficial for your actual practice of taking these style of questions. I'm going to move that over here, and then we're going to go ahead and get started. If you're looking at the first question, which equation represents the value of y is 5 less than 3x? Well, whenever we were working on this a couple weeks ago, you learned that the word then is a turnaround number or a turnaround word, not number, turnaround word. And it says the value of y is 5 less than 3 times x. So when you see 3 times x, your brain should automatically go, oh, 3 times x is 3x. And then 5 less would make you think subtract 5. Well, the word then makes you turn it around. So the first thing I'm going to think is, I'm going to look for a 3x. So I'm looking at my options and I'm going, I know it's not 5x, so I know it's not these two options. So now I know it's either this one or this one. And then I remember from Mr. Phillips, Mrs. Abshire, Mr. Edelin's class that the word then is a turnaround word. I need to turn around the 3x and the 5. So it's not going to be in the same order that it was written. And that's going to be this option right here. And that's the one I would click. Y equals 3 times x minus 5. 5 less than 3 times x. Y is 3 times x minus 5. If I was just kind of explaining this to you guys, I would want to help right here. Verbal translations, 5 less than 3 times x, that's 3x minus 5. Y is. The only difference is you put y equals. I'm going to go to the next review question. Which situation can be correctly summarized by the equation y is 10 multiplied by x minus 5? All right. Now, when we're thinking about this, hopefully we can pull back to some middle school memory because we haven't covered linear functions that much this year, but it is a equation that we're hoping you guys can kind of dictate which parts of the equation goes with the actual verbal translation. Jackson gave his little brother $5, but made $10 working at the state fair, so he gave the little bro 5. So in theory, he lost $5 for his little brother, but then he made $10 working at the state fair each hour. So he started off losing $5, but then each hour he worked at the state fair, he made $10. Now Carla received $5 from her big sister, so Carla got $5. She went up $5. She increased by $5, but then she spent $10 each hour she was at the fair. So that would represent a loss of $10. So if I'm thinking of these two, I'm going, if Carla received, that wouldn't be represented by minus 5 because she received it. She got it. And then she spent $10. She would be losing $10 each hour. Now, Jackson gave his little brother $5, so he lost $5, which makes me think subtract, but he made $10 an hour working at the state fair. So I'm definitely going to go with this one, with Jackson. Question number 3. On a map, Starksville and Hardin are 150 miles apart. How fast is the car? It should have been car, I'm sorry. How fast is the car traveling if it takes 5 hours to get from Starksville to Hardin? Now, automatically with miles per hour, you should think distance over time. So Miles per hour is when you take your distance and you divide by your time. That's how you get miles per hour. We are just thinking of a just simple division expression here, like so. So if you traveled 150 miles in 5 hours, you would be traveling 150 divided by 5, which is 30 miles per hour. So if I'm looking at my options, I got 53, 145, and 30. My answer would be 30. Question number 4. Now this hits the nail right on the head, what we covered at the end of last week. Variable on both sides. Consider the equation 60x minus 30 equals 15x plus 60. Derek said you would add 30 to both sides of the equation. Penny says you would subtract 15x from both sides of the equation. Who is correct? Now, if I work this out the way I taught you guys, you would take the positive 15x and move it over with the 60x and make it negative 15x. And then you would take the negative 30 and flip it to the other side and make it a positive 30. From here, we can combine like terms and get 45x equals 90. And when we divide each side by 45, we will get 2. Well, that's how you solve it. But the question was asking, Derek says to add 30 to both sides. Well, let's see if we did that. Did we add 30 to both sides? Well, we took a negative 30 and we would have put plus 30 right here. And then we moved it to the other side and we would have added 30 here. So we did add 30 because we changed it from a negative 30 to a positive 30. So we did do that step. Well, then Penny says to subtract 15x from both sides. Well, we took a positive 15x, and to get rid of it on this side, we would have to subtract 15x. And then when we move it over here, it's subtraction 15x. So what Penny said to do is what we did as well. So in theory, they were both correct. Derek said to add 30 to the other side. Penny said to subtract 15x to the other side. Who is correct? It wasn't just Derek, and it wasn't just Penny. They were both correct. Both Derek and Penny were correct. Question number 5. The perimeter of a square varies directly as the length of the side of the square. So it's a lot to read. So my brain as a student, I'd think, where's the formula? Oh, there's the formula. The formula perimeter is P equals 4 times side. So if you have all 4 sides of a square, you're going to add all 4 sides together to get a perimeter. The one thing I know about square is that's when all 4 sides are the same. And then what we're going to do is we're going to replace the value for perimeter is what they give us. If the perimeter is 40 square inches, how long is the length of one side of the square? So if the whole square is 40, we need to figure out what 1 would be. So 40 equals 4s. Now, if we go to look at this on the equation, 40 equals 4s, you guys know by your visual that you would divide each side by 4. And when you divide each side by 4, 40 divided by 4 would give you 10. That means one side of the perimeter would be 10. So if I'm looking at my options, 10 inches, 14 inches, 12 inches, and 8 inches, I know 40 divided by 4 is 10 inches. Question 6, Rahid is solving the equation 7x plus 3 multiplied by the difference of x minus 2 and is equivalent to 44. What value of x makes the equation true? I would just write down this equation and I would distribute, combine like terms, undo subtraction with addition, and undo multiplication with division. I'm going to show you that right now. If you notice, 3 times x would give me 3x, and 3 times negative 2 would give me negative 6. 7x plus 3x would give me 10x. I bring down the minus 6 and the 44. I'm going to add 6 to both sides and get 50. And then when I'm left with 10x equals 50, I'm going to divide each side by 10 and get 5. So I distributed. I combined like terms. I undid subtraction with addition. I undid multiplication with division. And I got my final answer of x equals 5. The only thing I would say to pay attention to, that's a positive 3 and that's a negative 2, so that would give you negative 6. And then the opposite of subtracting 6 would be to add 6. So we're looking for x equals 5, which is right here. That would be our solution for number 6. Number 7 is just a really, it's not a question that we need to spend much time on. We could do this review Wednesday and Thursday, and you guys would be really good at this. But it's 6 minus 5 multiplied by the absolute value of negative 2. You guys learned that the absolute value of a number can never be negative. So the absolute value of 2 is 2. And then you're doing 5 times 2, which is 10. And then 6 minus 10 is giving you a certain answer. So I want to go ahead and just show this. The absolute value of negative 2 is 2. So whenever you put a number next to another number, you got to represent it with multiplication. And then 5 times 2 would give you 10. Or we could say negative 5 times 2 would give you negative 10. And then 6 minus 10 would give you negative 4. Just so you know, this video is going to be available for use for you to study for your study guide. And these slides are all part of your Unit 1 expressions and equations slides. You can study these for your test on Friday. So when we got our final answer of negative 4, we go and look for that on our question. That would be our answer. We would work this out. Negative 5, 6 minus 5, and then the absolute value of negative 2. The absolute value of negative 2 is 2. Negative 5 times 2 is negative 10. 6 minus 10 is negative 4. Number 8 just got some fancy ways of saying undo addition with subtraction. What property would justify the next step? To undo addition, you would do the subtraction property of equality. To undo subtraction, you would do the addition property of equality. To undo division, you would do the multiplication property of equality. And to undo multiplication, you would do the division property of equality. So if this is an addition problem, how would you undo addition? That's right, the subtraction property of equality. And if I show this one, the opposite of add 11 is to subtract 11. That is called the subtraction property of equality. Moving on to the next question. This will finally involve our absolute value equations that we've been working on. I'm going to go ahead and just highlight it here. If you notice, a student solving the equation 3 multiplied by the absolute value of x minus 2 equals 9. You know you need to undo the multiplication of 3 and divide each side by 3. And that's what they did if you look from given to step 1. Then they did absolute value of x minus 2 equals 3 because 9 divided by 3 is 3. And then they got rid of the absolute value lines and wrote x minus 2 equals 3. And from there, they added 2 to both sides and got x equals 5. Well, the question says, which statement is true? Statement 1, the student made a mistake dividing instead of multiplying between given and step 1. Step 2, the student solved the equation but did not make any mistakes. Option 3, the student solved a portion of the equation correctly but did not account for the other solution, x equals negative 1, which would have resulted from x minus 2 equals negative 3. And step 4, the student made a mistake adding instead of subtracting between step 2 and step 3. If I'm thinking correctly, I'm sitting there going, I just did absolute value equations with Mr. Phillips on Monday and Tuesday. There's more than likely supposed to be 2 solutions, but this absolute value equation is only showing 1 solution. And you start to think, oh, that's right. They were supposed to set it equal to a positive 3 and a negative 3. So you take, when they got here, they were supposed to write it 2 different ways. One with a positive 3 and one with a negative 3. So they got the first solution, x equals 5, but they were supposed to get a second solution, x equals negative 1. From here, That would help you get this answer correct. The student solved a portion of the equation, but did not account for the other solution. They forgot to write the equation the other way, x minus 2 equals negative 3, which would have been solved to be x equals negative 1. So that would be my answer. Finally, on the last two questions that are very similar to Friday's test, you would just solve both these equations. I'm going to show both these on the slide. On this first equation, you distribute. Then you move your variable to the left, and you do the opposite of negative, you make it a positive. Then you move your constant from the left to the right, and it goes from being negative 16 to positive 16. Now you combine like terms on both sides, and then you divide. Negative 13 divided by negative 13 is positive 1. So if I'm looking here, there's my positive 1 for that answer. Lastly, we saw question 11. Move your negative 7v, make it a positive 7v with the other variable. Take your positive 12, make it a negative 12 with your other constant 1. And then you combine like terms, which will give you 11v. Negative 12 plus 1 is negative 11. And that will give you negative 1. That right there would be the option you would go with, v equals negative 1. So thank you guys for listening. I hope this review is helpful on your Edpuzzle today. And then tomorrow we will continue to review for the test on Friday. Good job.